So our season continues now with Darla Noble and the season series Phenomenal Grandparenting. This is Andy in the Boomer TV studio. I invite you to become familiar with this awesome Boomer community and platform featuring live programs like today for a full and meaningful life after 55. And now welcome Darla Noble and Phenomenal Parenting, where Darla focuses on connecting with grandkids.
Hello, welcome to everyone from Southwest Missouri, where it's a very cold and rainy day here today, but we're warm and comfortable inside the house. And so let's get going on talking about phenomenal grandparenting. Now, over the last 3 weeks, we've talked about what it is to be a phenomenal grandparent, just the do's and don'ts of establishing those relationships. Then the next week, we talked about how to connect, just some fun and innovative and just enjoyable ways to connect with your grandkids long distance. Then last week, we talked about the things that you can do when you are actually with your grandkids in person. So this week, we're going to wrap up this series by talking about bringing our family together and just creating a bond between generations that's going to last far after you and I are gone. As grandparents, we are at that age where we know we're not invincible. Andy and I were just kind of talking about that before the show started. We know we're not invincible. We know we're not going to be here forever. But we want to make sure we understand the value and the importance of making sure that our family's legacy, our family's history, and the stories and the things that make us a family, the unique unit that we are, make sure that those things are carried forward, that they're understood and appreciated and respected and loved by the generations who are here now, the younger generations that are here now, and even those that are yet to come. And so today I want to talk about, I'm going to do a little plug for myself here. This is one of my books. It's called Please Pass the Memories. And this book is just filled with, filled page after page of ideas of things that you can do with your family stories, family keepsakes, traditions, recipes, pictures, even your family reunions, and that's not a dirty word, by the way, to make sure that the younger generations really embrace those things and enjoy them. So I'm just going to start with giving you a few ideas of what that looks like. But before I do that, I'm going to tell you a little story about something special in my family. Now, you're always asked that question, if your house caught on fire, what's the one thing you would grab? And for me, since my kids are all gone, I don't have to worry about them. But as long as my husband and my dog, my little dog, we got out, I would grab this old beat up aluminum dish pan. It holds about five or 6 gallons of stuff of liquid, and it is beat all to pieces. And it is, let's see, I'd have to do the math. I should have done that before we started. But my granny bought it at the local farm and feed store back in 1936. Okay, so you do the math on that. She bought it because there was a bumper crop of peaches on the few peach trees we had on our family's farm that year. And you got to remember, we were in the middle of a depression. She was a young bride with a not quite 1-year-old baby. And she wasn't going to let anything go to waste. She wasn't raised that way. She was one of 9 children, and she just was not going to let anything go to waste. So she was going to make peach butter. She was going to can peaches, whatever she had to do. But there was a lot of them, and she needed something big enough to hold them all. So she went and bought that dish pan. Well, over the years, that dish pan has been used to wash dishes, to make bread, to butcher chickens, to hold green beans and lettuce and watermelon and berries and everything that you can imagine from the garden. It has been used to bathe her babies. She bathed me in it. I have bathed my children. She bathed my children in it. And I have even bathed my grandchildren in it. It's kind of a tradition now. But that dishpan has held more pickles and more everything. I have learned so much over that dishpan. Okay. Granny, like I said earlier in the series, she wasn't the kind of person that said, here, watch me do it, and you'll know how to do it next time. We worked over that pan, that old dishpan, brimming full of green beans or lettuce, just to wash it and to snap them, just to take care of things. So that to me and to my kids and my grandkids, even now they're getting big enough, that dishpan symbolizes a lot of things. There's a lot of connections to our family in that dishpan. So we use it, okay? And so that's what I'm talking about, is having things, using the things in your family to bring your family together. I've got a shelf made out of the boards of an old building on our farm when it finally collapsed, that holds all sorts of what I call my treasures. And one of the things on those shelves is a little deck of Crazy 8 cards that I was given when I was about 6 or 7 years old. And they've been sitting there for years and years and years. And one day when I was thinking about all this please pass the memory stuff and was getting ready to do a talk, it dawned on me, Darla, those cards have been sitting there for years and the kids look at them, but why don't we use them? Why don't we play Crazy Eights with them instead of the Crazy 8 cards in their closet, in their toy closet? Use those cards and talk about, while you're playing, talk about when you played with your friends or with my grandma or with my dad. My dad was really big on playing games with me when I was little. And, just talk about that and share stories and help them know the people that they can't know now because they're no longer here, but know that they belong to them, that they come from them. I've got things that were my great grandparents' wedding gifts. Yeah, great grandparents' wedding gifts. And some of them are on the wall, but there is a cut glass cake plate. It's one of those that has the little pedestal thing, and it sits where nobody can get to it, to where it might get broken and stuff most of the time, but a few times a year, for holiday dinners and for things like that, it comes out and it sets on our table or on the island where we have the food all set up, and it holds food for our family. And everybody knows that that was Grandma and Grandpa Widener's wedding gift, and that it's very, very special, and that it holds a lot of history for our family. But they understand that, and they know who they are, because of the pictures that are in my house of them. And so so they can connect that, and it makes them know who they came from. Family stories. Guys, tell your grandkids, tell your kids stories about your grandparents, the things that they told you when you were little. Tell them about the stories that your parents told you, things about you. Tell them stories about your childhood. They want to know. And it gives them a connection. And when you're telling those stories, bring out some pictures. Let them see you. I will never forget when the first time I showed Ruben, my grandson, a picture of his mama, who they farm also, and she is a wildlife rehabilitationist and vet. She does vet tech. She does surgeries and wildlife and domestic animals too, surgeries. But anytime somebody brings an animal that's been harmed or whatever that they see on the road that somebody thinks can be saved, she rehabs it if possible. And there's just all sorts of critters. But anyway, when Olivia was younger, she was definitely helping on the farm. And a lot of times she'd have her coveralls on over a tutu, literally a ballet tutu, because she'd be getting ready to go to dance class, or she'd just come home and we had some chores that needed to be done that we weren't expecting. But the first time I showed Ruben a picture of his mama in a beautiful creamy, lacy ballet tutu with her point shoes and everything on, I literally thought he was going to wet his pants laughing so hard. He could not imagine his mom in something like that, okay? Because that wasn't who he saw his mom as. And also, he wasn't born. He's just 7. He wasn't born until after my husband had retired. My husband was 30 years with Missouri State Highway Patrol in addition to farming. He didn't have any idea. He couldn't imagine Grandpa as a policeman. And Olivia was showing him some pictures and said something, and he couldn't comprehend that. So the next time he came, he was full of all sorts of questions for Grandpa about that. And I've got the sweetest picture of them sitting on the bed with my husband going through and showing him his badge and all the stuff that he used to have to wear on his uniform. And it's just so special. And my granddaughters, they want to know all sorts of things about when I was in school, and when they found my wedding dress. Oh my gosh, that was just something crazy. And I'm one of those people, I can actually still wear it. So kudos to me. But anyway, they wanted me to put it on. They wanted to see all the pictures and things like that, So it was just a really special thing. Pictures and stories, and you can join those things together. To help them understand things and know who they came from. So do those things with your grandkids, because we're not going to be here forever, and you don't want them to not know. You want them to know. And recipes, family recipes. Okay, there are things that, we all have those dishes that we come out only at for holiday dinners that we cook only for them. Matter of fact, I asked a question on my Facebook feed the other day. I always do fun little things like that. And I'm like, okay, would you rather have a traditional Thanksgiving feast or holiday meal, or do you go with the more relaxed stuff? And so you'll have more time to visit and just have fun. Well, I'm to the point where I do the whole relaxed thing. But a lot of people wanted the traditional. That was really pretty evident that a lot of people, and one of my cousins actually, she said, oh, I want the traditional stuff because I want those things that we only get, those dishes we only get once a year. And I said, Lisa, the food police aren't going to come after you. You can fix those things anytime you want. And she was like, she goes, oh yeah, I guess I can, So do those things, fix those dinners and fix those meals, fix those dishes, and tell stories about, like, maybe one time when you burnt it, or it turned out wrong, or it flopped. I mean, like, I know one thing that our family likes. One time I went to take it out of the refrigerator, and I still to this day don't know what happened. It just fell out and it splattered all over the kitchen floor. I mean, literally. And a couple of my family members, I have a very clean house, okay? They were like, we're not letting this go to waste. And they actually took a few spoonfuls of it off the floor. Off of, because we didn't want it to go to waste. So, just silly things like that. Tell those stories, share those memories, and then make sure you make some new ones. Make sure that you have, that you're, in the meantime, you're doing some making of new things on your own. Okay, I'm going to stop here for a few minutes, and I've had some questions come in. I think Andy said he's had some questions come in. And so I'm going to start off with one, if it's okay, Andy.
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine ask me, both she and her husband come from families where one of them was very dysfunctional, and the other one, she came from foster system. And so she really doesn't have a family. And she's like, I love everything you're saying, and I love reading your stories, but I don't have anything like that, Darla. She said, I have nothing like that. And I said, well, you have a wonderful husband, and you have 2 kids that are just like preschool age. I said, start making your own. I said, no, you don't have that, but you have now. And you're going to have grandkids and great grandkids someday. So start where you're at. Start making your own traditions. Start telling stories about, and I said, tell them as they get older, tell them a few things about, as, age appropriate, about your guys' growing up years. They're going to have questions. Why don't I have a grandma and grandpa? Where is it? Blah, blah, blah. You can tell them, that things weren't, really good for me, and that I wasn't blessed with a mommy and a daddy who could take care of me. But that's why we take such great care of you, and that's why we want to have such a really special family for us and for the kids that you'll have someday. So start where you're at. And so, I know she's not alone. I know there are a lot of people out there like that, but start where you're at. Another question I had was, what do I do with all those pictures that were my mom and dad's, that were my grandma's, that some of them have names on them and I don't know who they are. Some of them don't have names, so I don't have a clue who they are. And nobody's left who does. Okay, if you got pictures that nobody knows who they are and you don't have anybody to go to, toss them. Unless you want to do something cool with them. I mean, there's a lot of crafts that you can do with old pictures and stuff, decoupage stuff, bookmarks. I mean, all sorts of fun things you can do. And if you want to do that, do it. Otherwise, toss them. They're no good to anybody. Okay. As far as the ones that have names, if they have names, but you're not sure who they are, start asking around or maybe do some work on like some of those ancestry sites. Okay, and I know this may sound a little weird, but findagrave.com, that is a great site for you to find your ancestors, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, aunts and uncles, people like that. And there will be obituaries a lot of times on that site under that person. And they may be, those names may be there, or old books. I mean, your family's Bible, there may be clippings, newspaper clippings, old yearbooks. They may be good friends of your parents or your grandparents or whatever, but ask questions. Okay. Ask questions. And there you go again, label your pictures and maybe tell a little story about it. I am not a scrapbooker. And if you are, go you. It is just not me. But I am still one who loves to print out pictures because pictures to me are a universal language. I don't care what country you're from. I don't care what language you speak. A mama holding a newborn baby, or a radiant bride, or a nervous groom, or a family gathered around a holiday table, or a family reunion, picnic outside with watermelon and stuff. It is the same in any language. Okay. So print your pictures off. Don't just leave them to the World Wide Web or your cloud or whatever. Okay. Print them off and put them in albums with a name and a family reunion 2012 or whatever. Just something simple. Print them off because everybody loves to look through photo albums. I mentioned my grandson. One of my granddaughters is, it's freaky scary how much she looks like her mama. I mean, really. And when she was about 4, I had her one day and I said, "Hey, Lainey," I said, "come here." I said, "I want to show you some stuff." And so I pulled out some photo albums of her mama when she was little. And I said, "Who is that?" And she knew it wasn't her, but yet she wasn't sure. And I said, "That's your mama." She said, "That's mama?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's your mama." I said, "It looks like you, doesn't it?" Yeah. They love that kind of stuff. So, get those albums, put them together, do keep them current and bring them out and look at them. It's a fun thing to do. Your kids love it too. Your adult kids love looking back over that stuff. Okay, Andy, I've got a couple more questions,
Okay,
but
go ahead. Well, the only questions they're kind of sound around the same topic. Joan says, Priscilla asked the same thing. She has too many boxes, but Joan says she is a pack rat and has trouble getting rid of things, and she doesn't know what to do.
Okay, that is a problem, but yet it's not. I'll tell you what, one thing, get it all out there and see if your kids want it. Okay. Vintage is big. Okay. Vintage is big. Your kids, your teenage granddaughters, and even your grandsons, like fishing equipment, hunting stuff, sports equipment, they may want to decorate their rooms with it. They may want to use it. There's a lot of things you can do with it. See if your kids dishes, all that Pyrex stuff, that stuff brings big money right now. Okay. Old dishes, but use them. Okay. Use them. Don't just look at them or keep them packed away. If it's all packed away, it's not doing anybody any good, and nobody's going to know why it's special or anything. Use it, display it, bring it out, display it, have it out once in a while, like the cake stand thing, or use it all the time. I mean, just depending on what it is. Let your grandkids play with your old toys. Some of them aren't like safe, kind of like safety standards, safe for little ones, but be smart about that. But on that same line, if you're like me, you had I had tubs and tubs of my kids' 4-H awards and ribbons, and my son's cross country medals, their baby clothes that I couldn't part with that came from special people, their first Sunday school papers, first haircuts, their first teeth. I mean, I kept it all. Okay. I am that mom. But it got to a point while we were getting ready to move. And I thought, what am I going to do with all this stuff? And I knew I needed to do something with it, because I knew it needed to not just sit there. Well, I came up and this was one of those inspiration moments. Okay. It really was. Okay. I was in Hobby Lobby. Love that store. And there were these amazing, really cool looking wooden boxes, like wooden decorative boxes, suitcases, steamer trunk type things, smaller versions of those. And they were 50% off. Well, 50% off, I mean, that's a common thing for Hobby Lobby, but I thought I got to have some of those. And I literally walked around that store for like 30 minutes trying to figure out a way that I could justify buying some of those. And that's when I had my aha moment. I thought, I am going to buy 4 of them, one for each of my kids. And I am going to put their treasures in them. They are going to be their treasure boxes, and it's going to be part of their Christmas. So I picked out 4. Oh, I had so much fun doing that. And I took them home and I put them away upstairs where nobody'd see them. And then while everybody was at school, I sorted through all of their stuff. And I admit I did throw a few things away. And I did pack some stuff away in a different thing, that was too big to fit in there. When I went through and sorted the things that I really wanted in those boxes, the outfits they wore home from the hospital, just all the different little things like that. And some of the things were self-explanatory. Other things, they were too little. They really didn't know what the significance was. So I had some little note cards, and I wrote a little note about why those things were special and tucked it into each thing. And I arranged everything in the box. And I'm not ashamed to say I bawled a bunch of little happy tears over those boxes and everything. But then, and I hid them away. And then Christmas Eve night, after everybody was in bed. Well, now, my son was married. This was, I think, the first year after they had got, either the first or second year after they had gotten married. And, but I put the boxes at the back behind the Christmas tree. They'd be the last thing to be opened. And so the next morning, everybody opens their gifts, and nobody, everybody was looking at the boxes, but nobody said anything. My grandma was there. We had some good friends that always spend Christmas with us. And, just my parents, I think, were there, and everybody was kind of looking at the boxes, but nobody said anything. So after all the gifts were open, I said, okay, here's the last gifts. I said, these are for Zach, Elizabeth, Olivia, and Emma. Now, like I said, Zach was married, and Elizabeth and Olivia were in, I think Elizabeth was in her first year of college, which meant Olivia was just a year behind that. And then Emma was like 12, something like that. And so I gave them the boxes, and I said, here you go. And I didn't say anything else. And, they're kind of looking at it, and they open them up, and they just went, well, Emma thought hers was cool, but I mean, she was 12, and there were still things I would be adding to hers. And so she looked through everything, and she thought it was really neat. And Elizabeth and Olivia, they went through theirs together, and they were just laughing and talking. I can't believe you kept all that, and blah, 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 and everything. And so then, but Zachary, my rough and tough, doesn't say a whole lot son. He took everything out one thing at a time, and he explained to Becca every single thing, why every single thing was important. And it was time. I was ready to eat, and I said, Zach, you want to eat and look through it later? He goes, no, go ahead. And he said, I'm busy. And he looked through every single tiny thing and read every single word. And then he put it back in and he looked at it again. I mean, he spent like 2 hours going through this box. And he came and he gave me, he said, that is the coolest gift I've ever gotten in my life. And even to this day, like 13, 14 years later, he will still say, my granddaughters will say, oh, my dad gets that out of the treasure box. They call them their treasure boxes. Or, things like that. So guys, don't just pitch it or don't think it's worthless. So for you guys who are pack rats, there's what you can do. Give them their childhood. Give your adult kids their childhood as a gift. And that's what Please Passing the Memories is all about. I'm going to hold this book up again because, guys, I cannot stress to you how important this is, how much this is going to mean to you when you get started, how much it's going to mean to your kids, your grandkids, your great-grandkids, all the generations that come. They are going to be so glad. As human beings, we have this innate sense to belong. We need to belong. That's one thing that has been so hard about all this COVID crud is the isolationism and the alienation and the distancing. We crave relationships. We are relational. We need to belong. We need to know who and what we belong to. We want to belong. So this is the way to do it, grandparents. And as grandparents, we're at that age. Like I said, we know it needs to be done before it can't be done. So, so do it and have fun. The book is available on Amazon, or if you want an author signed copy, or if you have questions or whatever, or want to just interact, you can contact me on my website, which is dnoblewrites.com, on Facebook, dnoblewrites. You can email me at dnoblewrites@yahoo.com. Follow me on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me just about anywhere. Okay. And it's D Noble Writes. Broken record, but easy to remember. And before we leave, Andy, I want to invite everybody. We're going to take, like I said, this is the last in this series. We're going to take a 2 or 3 weeks break, but then I'm going to be back, guys, and I'm going to be talking about being a caregiver to your loved ones, whether it be your spouse or your parents or your grandparents, and passing on those memories and being that relationship, switching from grandparenting to maybe being the child parent of someone with dementia, or maybe not so much dementia, not necessarily dementia, but needing care, where you have to step into that role as caregiver. And there are so many wonderful things that can happen with that, even in a situation that maybe you don't want to be in, or that is sad. It's sad. Believe me, I know, I've been there. You're going to hear a lot of stories and a lot of experiences, and they're all going to relate back to how you can be the best caregiver there is. Okay. So Andy, what else do we need to do?
Well, I think you have it. We spoke about your book. We showed your website.
Okay,
Is
great.
there anything else that people need to know as far as getting in touch with you or getting anything
Yeah, sure.
else?
I gave them my contact, but I do want to say one more thing. I do a lot as an author. Of course, I write books, but I do a lot of ghostwriting and speaking. And one thing that I have really kind of fallen into doing, that I have found that I truly love, that I would love to do for you guys, is to write your family's history. Not for a bestseller, not even to be published, but for your family, taking your family recipes, your family stories, information about your family's ancestors, as far back as you want to go. Include family pictures, family traditions, information about why your family keepsakes are keepsakes and things like that. And write that book with you, for you and your family. So, it's a lot of fun. It's something that a lot of families want to do, but they don't have the time. They don't know how to do it. And that's where I come in. I love to do it. And not to sound prideful, but I found I'm really good at helping you make your family, your family's memories something that you treasure and something that they will treasure too. So get in touch with me if you're interested in doing that for just your family. It's a great way to have a family reunion fundraiser to sell the books to pay for like your your location for your family reunion, or just, like the food or something like that. So yeah, get in touch with me if you're interested in something like that. And guys, have a great Thanksgiving, and I will see you soon.
Well, looking forward to that, Darla. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Andy. Bye, guys.
Well, Phenomenal Grandparenting with Darla Noble. You can find out more on Facebook and YouTube and bloomerboo.com. If you like it, please like us on Facebook and follow us. Meantime, we'll see you next time.